What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off specific to Lucid, there's two things to kind of take note of. One is on February the 11th. So the Q&A for the upcoming Q4 earnings does open up, so retail can pose questions to management. Whatever, typically, ever since the beginning that they started to do this, day one, whatever the top questions are, regrettably, that's what does get asked. So you really want to ask good questions early on. If you kind of miss the boat after day one, it's pretty much there is no point, regrettably. So this is where you need to take the actual time and think about what is going to be really proposed. And just to be fully honest, I have zero expectations for this. I used to have a lot of good kind of hope that we were going to ask good questions, but 9 times out of 10, it's always just the same. When is profitability going to occur? What new vehicles do they have planned? What new technology? It's all very basic, and to me, it kind of seems planted questions, but I don't want to go down that speculative route. Nonetheless, though, that does open up on February the 11th. Aside from that, though, you do have them concluding at the Washington DC Auto Show. They're going to be at the Chicago Auto Show this upcoming week, and then on Friday, the Canadian International Auto Show. Usually a lot of this does result in them doing a couple posts on social media, so that should be some pretty good kind of marketing, free marketing for the most part. But I think one of the biggest driving factors for this week is going to be data points. So starting off on Monday, you're going to have the market kind of reflecting on everything that happened last week, as well as what is going to come this week. I think you're also going to have somewhat of a negative sentiment carry forward from last week into this week. So something, again, to kind of keep in mind. But Tuesday and Wednesday, you have Powell. Powell will be talking on a lot of the touchy subjects: inflation, interest rates, labor data. Labor data has not been good, so he might be somewhat cautious, and the market's definitely going to pick up on that. So that's on Tuesday, Wednesday. You also have CPI on Wednesday, PPI on Thursday, retail sales on Friday. Each data point that I mentioned has the ability to really move the market. So you're going to have a lot of crazy volatility. And even aside from that, you're also having a lot of big companies unveiling their earnings. So nothing I feel like is going to really directly affect Lucid or just the EV sector, but in general, you'll see just a lot of volatility. And I think in general, the market's been like cutthroat, very, very cutthroat, where they give, like, you need good future guidance in order for the market to appreciate what you're doing. So I think it's going to be a fun time this week, all in all. But going into this upcoming week, 22.88% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 272.57 million shares. Interesting point, though. Shorts have returned for 4 consecutive trading days. I don't believe that has happened for almost a good, probably 6+ months. So maybe they feel that something big is coming, or potentially, I'm not really sure why. Maybe they're just trying to mitigate risk. Like I kind of mentioned, Powell will be bringing up labor data, and a lot of the data, especially the sentiment on Friday, did signal more of a slowing. So maybe big money and just shorts are mitigating a risk. That, again, could be one point. But nonetheless, going into this upcoming week, anticipate a lot of volatility. Options that was done on Friday, you see that there was one huge candle right here. So big money is definitely getting into Lucid a little bit more, but on the bearish side. So 46% of all the options being done on Friday were bearish in nature. Of the call options that were purchased, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $3 range for this week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub $3. So clearly $3 is kind of that the moral of the story for this week. Looking at this is the open interest. So with it closing at $2.81, regrettably, the 25,000 in open interest at that 3 does expire worthless. That's kind of the downside of doing options. So sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. But Looking forward into this week, you have 9,000 at that $3 strike price and then 5,000 at that 350. So if Lucid, for instance, does gain some pretty good momentum, gets close to some of these strike prices come Friday, you might see shorts a little bit more active, as both market makers and shorts have a financial interest in bringing Lucid down below that. When it comes down to as far as like expectations for this upcoming week, this individual, so I want to give them a shout out, Steve, he's been doing more actual flyovers. So I think that's very good. That's what Lucid investors do truly need. But at the same time, it's also bringing to light some negative things of Lucid, which again, cycling back over here, this could be a potential good question to management is, what is your like expectations for the second variation of the Gravity for, let's say, production? Are you all supply chains like ducks in a row, everything like that? Because this did signal so far, I think this was done on February the 6th, that there was no gravities, and the same goes for his last flyover, no gravities. So I think no matter what, Lucid really needs to, clearly they're doing a lot of sales, as what he said, so a lot of inventory is moving, but I think even Lucid has a huge amount of expectations for the Gravity. So like they really do need to talk on that. And like I said, future guidance is the make it or break it point for companies unveiling their earnings. So that's what the market is really going to care about for Lucid is, like, what is your deal with the Gravity? Is it actually going to be as high expectations as what you actually are saying? Is the demand there? Those are the types of things that us as investors need to really kind of take home. But aside from all that, on a technical standpoint, with that $2.83 trading between this pivot and this S1, so $3 is going to be that next strong target / resistance. $2.61 is going to be that next strong support. So just take note of all of that, because with all the data points, it is fair to assume that this S1 could be touched. Similarly, if good data comes in, such as CPI, this pivot point could be touched. So I think Lucid's been really wanting to move higher. It just needs that good catalyst, a nice little push move, and then yeah, it's just going to go up like crazy. But in the end, it's all going to come down onto the data points. But aside from that, going into this upcoming week with it closing at 281, it did close right above this 100-day moving average. So that is sitting at $2.78. Also the 50-day moving average, which is sitting at $2.76. So another absolute key support that you really want to watch for Lucid to hold. Flip side, you also do have that 200-day moving average at 295. So most likely this week, it is going to just be wedge bound between that 100 and also that 200-day moving average up until possibly most likely Tuesday based on what Powell says, or even Wednesday what CPI says. So let me know your viewpoint on Lucid. Do you think that it's going to move higher? What's your price predictions for this upcoming week? In my opinion, I feel like a lot of the data is going to prompt a little bit of fear. So this week you might see some consolidation. But that's just my opinion. I think Lucid does need to give a lot more operational updates. They did actually just put out an interview with Bloomberg, and they kind of talked on a lot of good things that's coming for, let's say, 2030. So in excess of 1 million is their target. They kind of talked on some capacity, both out of AMP1 and AMP2. So I think big things are going to be coming in the coming years. But as far as right now, short-term type of stuff, they are somewhat missing the boat a little bit on kind of short-term catalysts. Like I said, Gravity is supposed to fill that, but Gravity is somewhat non-existent. So I think, in my opinion, this week it might be not breaking below this 261, but it might kind of get pulled down close to that. That's just my opinion, of course. Let me know your viewpoint on all that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers, and I just posted as well my targets and expectations for a lot of these hot earnings, so that way you can kind of play some options. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.